and welcome to the Who Are They podcast. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that sometimes we reference different photos and videos, and those are all available on our Instagram at WH0_ARE_THEY_. So go there for updates about our show and reminders of when our episode drops.
From our Instagram, you can get to any of our other social medias or places to listen to the podcast. If you're listening, go ahead and rate and review, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe.
Thank you for tuning in.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Who Are They podcast. I'm Abby.
And I'm Bailey.
We are so happy to have you back today. You must be a real fan if you're here for podcast number 3. We're pretty far in now.
Yeah.
To get us started this morning, you can tell if you watch our video, I'm in a different spot. I'm looking out at the crazy amount of snow that Michigan got last night, and this morning, before this, I was out shoveling. I think I sprained my thumb or something because because it kind of hurts. Yeah, but that's what I was up to this morning before we got to this.
How much snow do you think you got?
I don't even know. At least 8 inches.
Wow.
Yeah. Or maybe it felt like more because I had to lift it all, but I don't know.
Aren't you supposed to get more on Sunday too?
Don't say that.
That's what I saw.
I hope not. I don't know. I haven't looked at the weather. Anyways, I'm just going to jump right into what happened this week. So,
okay, good.
Michigan got a bunch of snow, and so I ended up with 2 snow days this week, which is virtually unheard of in my, school system or because they pride themselves, I think, on honestly keeping us in school and keeping the kids in school and, having the resources to be able to deal with lots of snow. But that was so exciting and so fun. The snow day that we had yesterday was such a joke. We could have and should have been in school. It didn't start snowing until 3 or 4 p.m.
Why'd you have it off then?
Because it was, to be honest, I don't know. But I think it was because it was a weather or a storm warning instead of just a watch or something.
Okay.
And I guess maybe if it's a warning, they have to call it.
Okay. Was it supposed to start earlier?
Well, the warnings was at 10 or 12.
Oh, that makes sense. It'd be such a hassle to get there and then have to send everyone home.
Well, last year we had a day where it snowed all through the day, and then we all went home, and it was there were inches of snow, and one of our buses ended up in a ditch.
Oh, yeah, they didn't want to do that again.
Well, yeah, they should have given us another snow day on Tuesday, but they didn't, and it's a good thing buses didn't end up in the ditch.
Yes.
Anyways, I've had to shovel probably 3 times this week, which I hate. I just don't have the muscle for it. I really don't. But my neighbors helped me, twice. I was going to have to shovel again on Wednesday morning, but someone snowblowed before I woke up.
Oh, that was nice.
That was wonderful. Aside from my snow days and stuff, I really have just enjoyed kind of chilling out. I watched 2 movies. I don't watch a lot of movies. I watched Instant Family and Ferdinand.
Oh, I've seen Instant Family. That's a good one. But how was Ferdinand?
I watched that one last night. I don't normally watch new movies, so this is I don't know. It was kind of interesting for me. So it was pretty good. I cried.
Oh, that's the book our Spanish teacher read every year to us.
Yeah. Can we talk about what qualifies crying, though? Because here's the deal. I think that I say I cried. I did not. There were not tears coming down my face.
What? Then why are you qualifying it? Why'd you say you cry? You know tears?
Because I didn't really, okay?
Oh,
I think what I'm saying is, basically, you know that feeling when you're, cutting onions and your eyes are, starting to water?
Like they're watering? Yeah.
That's what happens to me.
Okay, but no tears.
Right. Well, no, my eyes get all watery and I can feel it, but not quite enough that they come out.
Oh. So, yeah, that's pretty much crying.
I don't know.
Teary-eyed. You had the emotion there.
Yeah. It was all inside.
Maybe next time just like lean over a little bit and like, the tears will fall out of your eyes. Then you can say you really cried.
Anyways, that was my week.
Well, I was in school all week because it was really warm. I think it was like 50 degrees this week.
Shut up. I hate you.
It was so warm. But we had a few days of indoor recess because it was raining so much. Like yesterday, we couldn't go outside all day. We had inches of water. So you guys had inches of snow. We had inches of water, like in the Gaga ball pit and on the mulch in the playground. So we couldn't go outside, even if it stopped raining. But so Monday's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So we have Monday
a
off.
professional development.
Oh, you have to go
You
in?
have the
I
whole
don't.
day?
We have the whole day.
Ugh.
But they just issued a winter weather warning. Not even a watch anymore. It's a warning. So I'm super
Already?
excited. Yes. And teachers are like, oh, I think we'll have Tuesday and Wednesday off. And
Shut
get
up.
this. Get this. The warning is for 3.5 to 4 inches.
That's nothing.
And it's supposed to start on Monday morning.
Wait, and you're going to get Tuesday and Wednesday
So,
off for something that happens
We
on
already
Monday
we got
morning?
an email from our superintendent that he's going to make the call on if we have Tuesday off Monday morning.
That's the dumbest
So-
thing I've ever heard.
Monday morning, he's going to make that call, but then it's supposed to be like 0 degrees on Wednesday morning. And so they're like, oh, that's too cold for kids to stand at the bus. So they also think we're going to have Wednesday off because of that.
Seriously?
Yeah. And if it's only 32 degrees or less, we're not allowed to go outside for recess.
What?
I know. And that's the real feel. Like if the real feel is 32 degrees or less, we cannot go outside to recess.
That seems so silly to me, but I guess they're just not used to that much snow.
Well, that just means they never ever play outside with snow at school.
That's also sad.
I know. Like if there's snow, they're not at school. Or if they're playing with it, they're not at school.
Yeah.
But also, like we have recess duty as teachers.
Oh.
I mean, it's a law in Tennessee, but also maybe that's part of it.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else from your week?
No, we're still in fractions. Kids are still doing great in fractions.
Nice.
Actually, we had to introduce. So we were adding and subtracting mixed numbers this week, but on
Oh.
Friday I introduced adding and subtracting mixed numbers, but we have to regroup. And some of them are really getting it. And to my surprise, they understand regrouping with subtraction over regrouping with addition,
Wow.
which is weird.
That
They
is
don't
really weird.
They don't understand where the extra one is going with the addition. But with subtraction, they're like, "Oh yeah, I just borrow from this one."
Your kids are extra, man.
So yeah. So small group is adding, addition,
Wow.
fraction.
For me
small.
at work this week, because we only had 3 days, it was ridiculous. But also, I was doing testing. So really,
Oh.
I didn't have to teach anything, which was so nice. But at the same, because it gave me time to like catch up on work, and I'm still not caught up from like the 3 days that I was gone. Like, it's almost, I feel like it's impossible to ever catch up on your to-do list. But I don't know.
I was running sticky notes ready to go. We had some testing this week too. And let's say everything works out and we do not go back to school until Thursday.
Oh,
I
am
have-
so jealous.
I have an observation that day.
Oh,
Like an observation where it's not just my principal. It's called an IPG. I do not know what that stands for. There's
I
too
don't
many
either.
acronyms that are in the
I've-
teaching world.
I've never heard of that.
Well, we have it at our district. I don't know how many districts have it, but the head math person of our district is going to watch us. The principal, the vice principal, another teacher. There ends up being like 7 people in my classroom.
Stop. My
And the
insides?
last-
No, my insides are getting like, I don't know
It's
how to describe it.
Awful. Well, the last time they did one, so like the very first one I got to watch. So I got to go around and watch the other teachers teach, which was kind of nice. But there's so many people. And then the second one they did, they had to reschedule it. So they did it the day after Thanksgiving break,
Oh.
which is so silly.
Yeah.
And then this time they scheduled it, and it was a day that we originally had a test, so we had to like redo everything so
Yeah.
that they could see an actual lesson. And it's because we have new curriculum this year. I think they're going to continue doing it, but that's why they started it. And they want to see how the curriculum is working out. But this time, it's probably going to fall after 2 snow days.
Interesting. That's weird.
But I'm going to have them come into my first class because they're usually calm in the morning.
My observations are always like I never know when they're happening.
Oh, I have 2 unannounced and then I have 1 announced. So my next observation's an
That's
announced
nice.
observation. And that'll just be my principal.
Yeah, mine are just my principal too.
It's just like a walk in a park after this.
Right. Well, I don't ever want to teach where you teach after hearing that. That being said, let's jump into our history. Are you ready for that?
I'm so ready for it today.
Okay. So I'm in charge of our history this week. And I was going through things and I just couldn't find any pictures or videos that we like haven't used, or that like if I did find anything, it just like wasn't.
It wasn't funny.
Yeah, it wasn't funny, but it also just wasn't good. I don't know how funny they're going to be today. I really don't. But I decided to pull from my journals. So I pulled out all the
I love your
journals
journals.
that went over this week. And I've got 3 different like little snippets here. And we'll see how much of it we want to read. Oh wait, this is the wrong one. Would be the last one. So I'm going to start in 2019.
What a good year.
And all of these happen to relate a little bit to things we've talked about on the podcast so far. So I need to find my section here. Let me find the date of this entry. Okay, this is on the 26th of January.
Okay.
And it says, I guess this was during that crazy snowstorm stuff that we were talking about last time, like polar vortex, okay? Or right before it.
Yes.
And
That was in 2019.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes.
And it says here that we had played volleyball, like done some stuff earlier that day. I think it was a Saturday. And then I go, anyways, after volleyball, I went back to the men's house as they finished a movie. And then we ended up all going to the church to go sledding in the field behind the church. Someone hooked up a rope to the back of his car to pull us. About 6 of us went. I flipped over. Then a cop showed up and talked to the guy who was driving the car. The cop was really nice and just told us to stop. After that, we went to IHOP to eat and played Pirates Dice, and we didn't go to bed until 3:30 a.m. So today, I have all my homework I need to get done.
Oh, my gosh. I was just thinking about this the other day, and that's one of my favorite that's one of my favorite winter memories.
Mine
is
too.
Attaching that sled to the back of the car and just zooming it. We were so we started in the field, but we also were doing it in the parking lot.
Well, I think the cop would have let us keep going if we'd been in the parking lot, but the field was technically like our school's, like the college's property.
Well, and there had to be at least a foot of snow.
Oh, for sure.
Because I think we also tried to play flag football.
Yeah. Oh, no. That's in the next one. Let me read the next one.
Perfect.
I think it's in the next one at least. So I write, we've had 3 snow days this week. It's literally unheard of, but I'm good with it. Monday was super windy and snowed literally all day. We got like 1.5 feet of snow probably. Tuesday we had classes, except my community college canceled. Then today and tomorrow are canceled because of extreme cold. Today it feels like -28 outside and you can get frostbite in 3 minutes.
Oh my gosh. That is so cold.
I know. There's another part of it that I need to find here. Oh, yeah. Okay. Then the houses, or some of us, went and played football behind the church. Later, everyone came to the WOHO, or the women's house, and Jacob had dinner made for everyone. Then we watched Gladiator and Jumanji. It was really fun, but we were up until 1, and I had to get up at 7. But hey, for only 1 day of classes this week, it's worth it.
That was so fun. Yes, I remember playing flag football and just trying to run to go get someone was the hardest thing ever because you were like trudging through a
I
foot
know.
of snow and then you were in so much snow stuff that you would just hurl yourself at someone else and if they fell, they'd fall on the snow. So it was really low impact football, but it was really fun. And nobody was moving that fast because we
No.
couldn't move fast.
Yeah.
And the movie projectors, oh, that was the best. I'd gotten a projector one year for like Christmas, and we would set it up and we'd hook it up to the boys' huge speaker. And we'd watch movies all together in the living room. Ugh, good times.
I know. That was so fun. I just felt like when I looked at those few, I was like, oh, that totally goes with us talking about the polar vortex in our last episode.
It's proof we
Yeah.
did do those things.
Yeah. Anyways, this next one is a year later, so it's 2020. And
Okay.
I can't read all of this out loud. Like, one, it's too embarrassing. Two, there are just many people's names in here that cannot and should not be included. Basically, at the time, I'm writing about a crush I have. And I'm going on about how I have this, and I can't read, like, exactly read what it says in here because it just wouldn't be good. Anyways,
Okay.
I'm writing this, and apparently I just kept talking to Grace about it, my roommate, and she was like telling me that if it doesn't seem like this boy is showing any interest, maybe that's a sign I need to stop liking him. All these things. I'm
No.
like ranting about things that I'm upset about that, like, just within the situation, okay? Well, then it turns from me talking about having a crush on this boy to me having a pity party.
That's all good journaling does.
I know. So I'm like, basically, I need to stop liking this person. And then I write, it just makes me sad because even if it's nothing, like even if this boy doesn't like me, Bailey has a certain boy giving her attention and I have no one. Like, I'm a great girl. Why don't I have anyone? Or is anybody interested? Even one of my guy friends says I'm pretty and fun and nice and wonders why I don't have a boyfriend. And then I keep going on and on and on. And then and then at the end of this, I start going, it's like I'm 20 and I have literally had no one, not even a boyfriend, being asked out or even interest shown, except for creepy boy from our community college, whom I don't really count. So not having anyone feels like my future is in jeopardy and maybe I'll end up with nobody. And I just read that and I thought, oh my gosh, she was really down in the dumps.
The thing is, you meant every word of that.
I know.
Like, it's so funny now, but I have similar journals. I know I do.
Well, the funny thing is, it's like I'm 24. It's been 4 years since I've dated somebody, but like, why did it matter so much at 20 that I felt like I was going to be all alone?
No, it's so young.
Like, I'm alone now, and I'm okay
Like,
with it.
Maybe when you're 40, this should be your journal.
I hope I would reach that point before 40, but yeah.
Well, you can revisit it maybe. Worst case scenario, I guess.
Oh, anyways, that was my history moments that I just really thought I should share.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, thinking back about it, 20 is so young.
I know. But I
And you
think
were like, I'm going to die alone.
Well, I think it was also because you had somebody that was showing you some attention at the time. And then some of our friends also, like, were getting into relationships that year that were, like, becoming more serious.
Yeah. Also, when you're in college and you're in the Christian scene,
Yeah.
things get serious quick between
Yeah.
people. So, yeah, that did. Yeah. I feel you there. I had lots of journals like that as well. Because I remember when during my history, I was trying to read through my journals to find something funny to share. And there were more journals like that than funny things.
Oh, yeah, of course. All right. Our topic this week is what?
Our topic this week is about mission trips. So we're going to go through some of those, share some funny stories, ask each other some questions. Abby and I have been on two mission trips together.
Yeah.
And I would say that our first mission trip together is where we actually really became good friends.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Have you only been on 3 total?
No,
Oh.
I went on 4.
With when we say mission trips, by the way, we're talking about mission trips with our church in college. The mission trips
Yes.
that we went on would be over spring break generally, although I think one of them wasn't, and we'll talk about
I
that
went
later.
on a winter break one too as well, so that's how I got 4 in.
Oh, because I was going to say, how the heck did you do 4? Okay.
Right.
So they were generally spring break mission trips, and we would sign up for them in the winter and then end up going over spring break, and you'd get to know the people on your team before you went, which I thought was really beneficial and fun, to being able to get to know people before you just get in a van and start driving 20 hours.
Right. So then you at least know each other's names and
Yeah. The first one we went to, or I guess you had a winter one.
the very first one I went to was New York.
Yeah.
So I had only been going to his house for probably only a month before I signed up, because you have to sign up a little bit beforehand. And they had a special winter one. And it was going to be in New York City. And I was so excited to go. Also, I was only 19. So it was my first college mission trip. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We worked with the homeless. We worked at some food. We worked with New York City Relief to serve them food out of food trucks. We worked at a place where they can go get clothes. I forget the name of it, but we were like sorting those, helping them pick out clothes.
I wasn't
really
really
fun.
like good friends with you at that point, but I feel like that mission trip was like pretty impactful or like big for you.
I remember it was. Yeah. I had a journal for it. Oh, I found it.
Stop. Tell me that was not just sitting next to you in that chair underneath that pillow.
It was. Well, because I had set it out, okay? It wasn't like I thought I truly lost it, but then it was right next to me in the under the pillow.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, yeah, this is one where I thought I journaled every single day of this, but I journaled I think the first 3 days, and then I did a recap afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So it was really fun. I got to know, the really nice thing about this one was I got to know some people outside of the house, because I had moved right into the house at the beginning of the school year. I didn't go to the church beforehand, so I didn't know a lot of people really well that went to the church. But going on this trip, no one that lived with me was on this trip, so I got to get to know a whole bunch of new people. And so just doing that and doing life with people and sharing testimonies and all of that, I remember being really impactful, especially being like one of the youngest people on the trip, and everybody else on the trip pretty much was older. So it was like I got a bunch of brothers and sisters that were older than me, and it was really fun.
I remember all of you guys coming back with your matching sweatshirts, and you would like just hang out, and that was fun.
Yeah. Well, I remember the first thing. Okay, so my journal, I wrote the first thing we did was "Don't Walk By," which was basically where we were gonna walk through New York City, and we all had to stop at the same place. And so the goal of this is that you walk, and every time you see someone that's homeless, you're supposed to stop and talk with them. And I remember being 19 years old. I was so excited for this. I was like, I'm going to talk to so many people.
Mm-hmm.
My partner was Marty.
Okay, yeah.
And it was great. We were chatting, and we see one homeless guy, and we have the best conversation with him. He's the sweetest man. I think we left him with some socks. We talked to him for probably like 30 minutes, and then we never saw anyone else for the rest of our walk. Now, let me tell you how wild that is, because we walked from Madison Square Garden to the Brooklyn Bridge.
That means nothing to me because I've never.
And
been to
I don't
New
remember
York.
how far it was, but it was multiple miles.
Wow.
And we didn't see anyone else. And I was like, you know what? That's probably good, because it was really cold out.
Yeah.
But we stopped at Five Guys for lunch. I remember that was my first time ever having Five Guys.
Nice.
It was in New York City. Yeah, and then we would do other things. We would serve food out of their food truck, and there was like a prayer station in the back. One of the men that I was talking to went at the soup kitchen. I was sitting and eating lunch with him, and he told me how he met Charlize Theron, which is a famous actress.
Oh, I was like, what?
But there was one day that I had to, when we were out and about in the streets, I had to sit on the bus because I was being harassed
Oh.
by someone. So that wasn't so fun. Like, it was one of our last days, and we were, I don't remember what part of town we were in, but we were serving food out of their bus. And this one man started just getting a little bit too obsessed with me and was like asking for my number and was like stepping in front of people and was just getting a little too handsy. And so I had to go sit on the bus.
That's scary.
I know. So they're like, yeah, maybe just go sit on the bus. So I just sit on the bus for about an hour until we left.
Wow.
But actually, it was really sweet because this man named Angel, who is someone that has special needs, but he was homeless, but he's not anymore, and he's really good friends with the company that does this.
Okay.
He came and sat on the bus with me, and we watched music videos for the hour.
Oh,
And
that's
so,
fun.
actually, I had a great time. But I just remember that was a really good trip for, like, being on your own, getting out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Like, figuring, like, every part of that, figuring out the subways, like, making
Yeah.
new friends. It was really, I think, great for getting out there in college and, like, serving other people.
Mhm.
And just seeing other people serve is something that's, I think, really beneficial as well. That was my first one.
Yeah, and then we went on one together, and I think it was that just next spring. And so I had just moved into the house in January.
Can I tell you really quick how I paid for the one we went on together?
Yeah.
I sold my plasma.
Way to
So there was
go.
like a special deal where you'd get like $500 to sell your plasma if you did it
That's
in a
so
month, like,
funny.
so many times a month. And that was exactly how much I needed for the mission trip. So I remember telling people that I paid for this with blood money.
That's funny.
Anyways, go ahead.
Anyways, sorry, it's snowing again, and it's just making my heart sad because I don't want to go shovel anymore. Anyways, okay. What am I saying? Oh, I moved in January. We went on this mission trip in March, and we went down to Alabama. It was us, and then I think there was another girl from our house.
Yeah, Liz.
Yep. And then I was just trying to think if there were other people. And then there were two or three guys from the men's house. And some of my biggest like memories from this trip, like I'm just looking over like the big picture type thing. I was terrified. I don't think
remember.
I don't think I'd gone anywhere. I'd gone a couple places alone without, like, on trips without my family, but they just made me so anxious. And at that time in life, I think we talked about this last time, when I first moved into the house, there was just so much going on in my life that I was, like, just emotionally having a lot of trouble. And everything was scary to me. So anyways, I remember crying at our last meeting the night before we left. And I remember one of our leaders, Jack, he looked at me after we had gone on the trip, and he looked at me and he was like, Abby, after you were like really struggling the night before we left, I did not think you were going to show up and get in that van. And he was
Oh
like,
my
I'm
gosh.
surprised you even went. Like, must have been how freaked out I was, I guess.
You were very freaked out, I remember.
But it got worse. It got worse because I was so scared, but it was fine. I got myself there. We got in the van. We were on our way down. Boom. We're in the car for I don't know how many hours. I don't get car sick. Okay? I don't get car sick. But middle of the night, I have the worst stomach ache. I end up throwing up. And I said to Jack and Doug, I was like, we need to stop. Like, I have the worst stomach ache. I'm going to throw up. They got me, like, I've never thrown up in something weirder before. So they got me, like, one of those styrofoam gas station cups. They filled it with, or they put a plastic, like, garbage bag inside of it. And that's what they had me throw up in.
Oh my gosh. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But can I read you what's in my journal about this?
Yeah.
I said, we left at 9 last night and drove through the night. Poor Abby ended up getting sick in the van. But on the bright side, she puked so quietly no one even knew.
It's true. The only people that knew were the people that were sitting in the row with me. And I think Liz was like rubbing my back, like making me feel better. This guy, Ben, that was on our trip, he decided to come on our trip like that week or like the night before we left or something like that. Never met this boy in my life. He's like sitting down the road just like looking at me as I end up puking into this thing. Oh my word. It was so bad.
Aw, poor Abby.
I know. But I will say that trip was so fun. It was a bunch of great people. And we ended up we went to Alabama, and it was with a ministry that worked with kids and was like an after school program. And I think we did a bunch of other stuff for like organizing and painting and whatnot with them too.
Yeah, like we organized their closets. We painted some stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
we did some yard work for someone else.
Oh, we did. Yeah, I forgot about that.
We stained a fence.
But I think the biggest, like most impactful part of that trip was when we had our day off and we went to like some different museums that talked about like the slave trade and what was the other one?
We went to the lynching memorial, which was really impactful, I think, for both of us, because just seeing all the names of the people that were affected and just reading those and even seeing like things that were like unnamed names, it was very emotional. And it was like, wow, this was happening right in the middle of this town.
Right.
And it's something that still affects them to this day and still affects a lot of people to this day. And it feels kind of distant until you enter into a memorial like this and you're like, this wasn't very long ago. And these people are still dealing with this.
And I think it was just bonding for us because we were both so just emotional, and it was just so impactful for us that we walked through it, I think, together. And so that was just wild. And we became a lot closer after that experience. And I think also that trip just was really impactful for me, not just that specific moment, but in just finding freedom from a lot of tough things that I had gone through in life. And so that I loved that first trip that we got to go on.
Yeah. It was so great.
I know.
And it was really fun too.
I know. Oh, wait, before we move on to the second trips, we've got to talk about International Women's Day.
Oh, yes.
And the guys, International Women's Day would usually fall over spring break, at least for us.
And the guys would usually try to do something for it.
Right. And so this particular year, they went to the store and they bought rain gutters and brought them back to the house we were staying in. And they filled them with ice cream and like they bought a bunch of toppings. And so we like all ate ice cream out of these rain gutters.
It was so fun.
It really was.
It was so good. And they had gotten each of us a rose, and they had we had cut like a stump up or something, and they had sliced it into pieces and written our names on them, and then different Bible verses on the back corresponding to each person. It was just really cute and sweet.
I still
They sang for us too and did a little dance.
Really?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
No, not at
I
all.
could not remember for the life of me what they sang, but they got up in front of us while we were eating our ice cream, and they got up and did a little dance and sang.
That's funny. I still have my rose dried up in a box, and I have my little wooden thing in a box.
I only have the wooden thing.
I'm so sentimental. Okay, let's move on to our second, or I guess your third trip, my second trip.
Okay.
We went on 2 different trips that year. So this would have been, 2020, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, because it was right before the shutdown.
I know, it was right before COVID. You went to Florida, and I went to Texas. Why don't you start with yours, and then I'll jump in after that.
Yeah. So we went to Florida, and there we were helping with an after-school program. So before, like during the day, we would go there were a lot of empty lots in this town. So we would go and we'd clear these lots, and it would kind of keep people out of living in like the brush, and it would just kind of clean up the area so you didn't have to worry about, dangerous situations or something like that, or just having a nice place that kids can go and play. So we would do that during the day, and then after school we would help with their after school care. So we would help them with homework. We would do little things like that. It was so much fun. But I also remember that going up on this trip, I was like signing up for Florida, and I was like, great, like we're gonna be near the beach. But this town was nowhere near the beach.
No.
And we had to drive so far, like and I know that's not what mission trips are about, but you're like, well, I'm in Florida.
But every mission
I'll
trip
be near
also,
the beach.
Each trip got one free day. And so you
Yeah.
would normally be helping
So we're like,
serve.
Oh,
Okay.
on our free day, we're going to take
Yeah.
a break on the beach, which we did, but it took us like 4 hours to get there.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. My first year, I was helping to lead the trip.
Your first year? Oh.
My first year going to this Florida location. So
Okay.
this was my first time I got to help lead a trip. And the three of us that were leading it were just kind of super go with the flow. So we had plans. Like, we had structure, we had plans, because the other people I was leading with, they were also the type of people that like they needed to know what was coming next. But also it was a lot of go with the flow. One of the girls who was on our trip, her dad happened to be in Florida at the same time.
Oh.
So we drove to this town. I don't remember the name of it. And he got us into his hotel, and we got to swim at this rooftop pool.
That's so
And it was
cool.
just like after we got done working one day. For some reason, we had a half day because I think after school care got canceled, probably because of COVID.
2020
Was right before COVID.
Halfway
So I think
through the week of our mission trips, we got an email finding
Right.
out that our campus was going to cancel all classes that were happening for the following week, and then we would probably go back. But we didn't go back. But at the time,
right. So for that reason, one of the days we must have had a half day or something.
Yeah.
So we went to the beach, we went to this town, and he got us into this rooftop pool. So that was super fun. And then we went out to dinner with him. And so it was a lot of like, we had structure, but it was very go with the flow. And getting to lead this was really fun.
Was
And
leading, did that make it more stressful for you, or was it still just as like impactful and fun as they had been previously?
I think it was just as impactful and fun. Like, I felt there was a little bit more responsibility on me to know everything that's going on,
Right.
know what we're going to do next, make sure that we have all the stuff that we need. So, like, I guess getting food and getting to the right location was a little bit stressful. But I think the leaders that I was leading with, they were so great that it didn't really add a lot of
It made
stress.
it easy.
It made it pretty easy, and it was still super fun. But on the way home, so COVID, we've gotten this email that COVID is shutting everything down. We know we're not going back to school for the next week. And there have been cases of COVID in this town that we were in. There were like 1 or 2 cases. So this was very early when not a lot of people were like known to have it.
Right.
And on our way home, one of the boys in our car gets really sick. Like, he is throwing up. But for the first time, before he throws up, he's like, I don't feel very good. And we're like, oh no. So he was sitting up front. He was in the passenger seat. And he's like, I think I'm going to throw up. We have no bags in this car. So we're freaking out. We're yelling to everybody in the 16 passenger van. And someone in the back finds this bag of bread. And we start passing this
Ew.
bag of bread up to the front. And then he just starts chucking this bread out the window to get an empty bag. And so whoever's behind us is getting hit. We're on the interstate. Whoever's behind us is getting hit by bread. And then he has this empty bag, but the bag doesn't get emptied fast enough. So he ends up just throwing up outside the window as well. So then there's throw up all over the side of our van. So first bread was being thrown out of our van, and then throw up was thrown out of our van. And then we got the bag cleared and he threw up in it. But I think this kid threw up like 15 or 16 times throughout the
that's
whole night.
Horrible.
To the point where like whoever was sitting in the passenger seat just kept prepping new bags for him. After we had
That's
stopped at a gas station, we picked up a bunch of them. They
sad.
would like prep new bags. I remember I was sitting next to him and I would like look up and I'd be like, he's throwing up again. And I'd just go back to sleep.
That's so sad because I know what it's like to throw up in a van with that many people, and it's horrible.
Well, it's horrible. And also before we had stopped, he had thrown up on the floor because he was, one point was in the middle of the van. I don't remember the order of it anymore, but I had to clean up the throw up off the floor. But then when he threw up on the side of the van, my friend Sarah, who was helping me co-lead this trip, took one of the gas station squeegees and squeegeed it off the side of the van. So I will never in my life ever use one of those gas station squeegees again. Like, we needed it. Okay, we had to get this puke off the side of the van. But I feel bad for whoever went to go clean their windshield after that. That was puke water.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Isn't that so gross? And then, luckily, one of the people on our trip had essential oils of like mint.
Good.
And so we were just like dabbing it under our nose.
So that you couldn't
so
smell
that's all we could smell. So that was really our saving grace, I think, for the rest of the trip.
Thankfully.
But we thought he had COVID. We're like, oh, he's got COVID. He didn't. He just had like a stomach bug. But we're like, we're all going to die.
That year did not have anybody sick. I didn't get sick. I think that trip I went to Texas. So we went down to Texas to work with Samaritan's Purse. They were rebuilding homes. And it was so fun. We ended up going down with a group of people. Some of the same people that I'd been on with the previous year were on it, which was a blast. And then we also ended up meeting up with this group of people from some university in South Carolina. And we all worked together. And so they split our teams in half. And so half of my team went to work on one house, half of my team went to work with the other house, and then they split up the South Carolina people too, so that we could like all get to know each other and work together, you know? And that was so fun. I think the funny thing about this trip is I am a person that is known for my laugh. Okay?
Oh, yes.
And I'm very loud about it. And so I remember showing up on the first night and we were exhausted. We'd just driven for 25 hours or like, I don't even know how long. I laughed really loud in our first like meeting with everybody. And even the guys that were like in charge, like at the place we were staying with Samaritan's Purse, they were like making fun of me and like just go like not in a rude way.
Right.
Like, I loved it. Okay. Like
you have a distinct laugh.
Oh,
people
really
notice
do.
it.
I know. And so we move on. Okay. Whatever. At this point, we've like, it's the first day's gone by. We've worked on our site. We've like sort of talked to the people from the South Carolina, but like not a bunch. If you just happen to be working with them, you like made friends with them. And I remember that night we would always have like a little devotional or like a share what you learned from the day, what was impactful for you, what are you learning, all those things. One of the boys from South Carolina, and I will never forget this moment. He was being genuine, okay? He was being so real. And he's like, oh, I'll share. So he goes and he's like, yeah, I have just been reading this book and like learning a lot. And in this book that I'm reading, it's talking about the macro and micro workings of God and all this stuff. And he goes on and he's like, in one of like the micro works of God is just like people's laughs. No joke. The entire room, every head swivels to me. And like, maybe it wasn't from his book. Maybe it was. I'm choosing to believe that genuinely was in his book. Okay. But like, I think it was, but everyone was like, he's talking about Abby. So all heads turned to me, and it took everything in me not to laugh out loud again then, because I was just like uncomfortable, and I was like, I can't believe he just did that. And then later that night, a different girl that was like on his team comes up to me and she goes, hey, I just want you to know that he was not trying to make fun of you. Like, he genuinely really likes your laugh and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not going to lie to you. Like, a cute boy with the accent.
Oh,
really,
gets you every time.
Oh, I had a crush on this boy the whole week long. And it was enjoyable for me. And I mean, I'm telling you, we would be on the work site. We happened to be on the same work site. And I would be inside. I think I was doing like baseboards, like nailing in baseboards and measuring out stuff. I'd be in there and I was working with this girl. Her name was Emma. So Emma and I would be working together. I would laugh really hard at something she said, and all of a sudden he would just like show up. Be like, oh, what are you laughing at? And I'd be
it was like a calling card for him. Not a calling card, but like the bat signal. He hears your laugh and he's like.
And I felt that made me feel so good. Not gonna lie.
Oh, for sure.
Like, so good. But unfortunately didn't work out. He lives far away.
Yeah.
Anyways, that trip,
What could have been?
I know what could have been. But anyways, that trip was super fun. I think the most impactful thing for me about that trip was that no one on our trip could play instruments or like was musical. And so they asked me to bring a guitar, and I am not super confident about playing guitar. I don't love doing it in front of people. And they asked me to do that. And so I think for me, just like learning to use your gifts to be able to serve God, and not necessarily the things that maybe you feel comfortable doing, but whatever is needed to be able to serve God in the situations that you're in, can be impactful for other people too. And so that was really kind of cool to see. But yeah, we came back and then COVID shut everything down.
Yeah.
So that was wild. But
Yeah, because I remember being so excited in that van for the week off, and then that week off never ended.
I have one more thing. Thinking about the
Okay.
trip back, we went to the beach, and we drove a few hours to get to the beach or whatever the last day before coming back.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not kidding when I tell you, we go to this beach. We had put on sunscreen religiously every single day, no matter what on the work site. We go to the beach, no one puts on sunscreen. One of our friends, Trent, like goes to the bathroom or something. Maybe he looked at himself in a mirror and saw how red he was. I don't know. Okay. He comes running back onto the beach. And I think I was the first person he saw. And he goes, "Abby, did you put on sunscreen?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Do it now." And then he runs around to every single person in our group and is like, "Put on sunscreen, put on sunscreen, put on sunscreen." We drove back and everyone in our vehicle was miserable. I mean, we were tomato red. Like, it was
I remember you guys
horrible.
coming back.
Yeah.
Even your feet were burnt.
Oh, my feet were so red. It was bad.
Watching you walk down the stairs when you got back was awful.
Oh, but from there, the whole COVID situation, and then that resolved. And the next year, we went on spring break again. But this time, and I was looking through photos, I don't think it was spring break, actually. I think it was after school.
It was. I'm not sure if we had a regular spring break that year because of COVID. I think they shortened the semester or something
Okay.
to where we couldn't go on mission trips over spring break.
Yeah,
And they
but
sent them afterwards. But I was grateful because I was student teaching that year, and I wouldn't.
Right.
My spring break would have been different. I wouldn't have been able to go. So instead, I missed my graduation to go on this trip. So I
Oh my
never walked for
gosh.
graduation.
We should have had a ceremony for you.
I know, we should have.
Anyways, we went back down to Florida, so the place that Bailey had been previously, the same, we worked with the same ministry, did all the same stuff. The funny thing about this trip is none of it went to plan whatsoever. So I was one of the leaders on this trip with two other people, and they were both kind of similar to when you were leading. They were both just super go with the flow. It was like just a very easy kind of to figure out, and nothing went to plan. I mean, we got down there, and I think COVID had an outbreak again down there or something, and so they shut down their kids ministry, which is literally the reason we were there to help them.
Yeah, I remember it was the morning of. We were having our meeting, getting ready. They were briefing us on the kids and how to act and they come in and they're like, "So and so has COVID. We're shutting it down for the week."
Yeah,
And I just remember everybody going like, "Oh, what?"
and we were freaking out. Yeah, and then we had to have a conversation of whether we were going to stay and we were going to help them and actually work, or if we were going to like do something else or help some other ministry or whatever. And we decided to stay, and it ended up being a blast. We worked with this one girl, basically was the only person we saw all week because she was the one that didn't have COVID. But we just ended up, we never saw a kid. No, actually, that's a lie. One day at the end of the week, we worked with kids.
We were allowed to play with them outside, so they had the kids come over for like an hour or two, and we did chalk and we did popsicles
Yeah.
and stuff.
But otherwise, we just organized and we cleaned and did a bunch of the stuff that they never, ever have time to do because they always have kids in their building.
Right, which is nice, though, because afterwards, that summer, I was setting up my first classroom, and I
Yeah.
was like, golly, how nice would it be for just a group of kids to come through and organize this for me?
I know.
So I was
I
like, in the moment, it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot, but then when you like go out and you're like, gosh, if someone were to do this for me, I would be oh so grateful.
I know, same. I think the other thing about that trip that didn't go to plan was there was like gas shortage. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. Yeah, we had to make sure like we could get gas at certain locations. I totally forgot about that.
And I don't remember, like, it never really ended up being a problem for us.
No,
right?
like we got home, but I remember we had to be strategic.
We did have to be strategic, and I remember us we had plans to do testimonies and plans to do like a bunch of like some meetings and stuff one night, and instead we piled into our van to go get in this crazy long line of people waiting to get gas so that we wouldn't run out. And instead we just ended up doing our testimonies in our car, like in our van.
Mm-hmm.
And that was crazy. But I think it made it good because we just had such a fun group, and it was a small group. I think there were 8-9 people in the team, and the 5 girls, like, were so fun.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that the whole group wasn't fun, but our little dynamic when we would go to bed and just be like hanging out and setting up our room and stuff when we got there was just the most fun thing ever.
It was. Yes. We were always laughing, always trying to do little pranks.
And that's what I was going to bring up, because I remember something about walkie-talkies.
Yes,
And
for some
I
reason we
don't-
all had walkie-talkies.
Well, no, I think they found them in this church we were staying at.
Oh, okay.
But
We had a few walkie-talkies.
I don't remember what we did with walkie-talkies. I'm hoping
I
you
do.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
So-
like, tell that, because I don't remember.
So we had multiple walkie-talkies, and I think the first thing we wanted to do is we wanted to figure out if we could like listen to them talk.
Wait, did
But
the
we
girls
couldn't.
find the walkie-talkies?
The girls did. We had the walkie-talkies.
Okay,
And
so
so-
we hid them in the boys' room.
Yes. So we wanted to prank them somehow. At first we wanted to listen to them talk, but I don't think we could do that. So instead we're like, okay, let's hide them in the boys' room, and then we'll either talk to them or we'll like talk in them or something.
Or we'll set off like the little beeping alarm.
Or we'll set off a little beeping. We'll make them freak out. We hid them in good locations.
We thought.
We thought.
I'm remembering
Good
the story now
locations.
as you're telling it.
Yeah. So we thought we had hid them in good locations. And the next morning, I think it was the next morning, we're like waiting for them to say something, and just nobody's saying anything. And then they just keep dropping like weird hints about like walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh no. Turns out there were like alarms set on these walkie-talkies that went off like in the middle of the night that we didn't know about. And so they just kept going off. So the boys had found all the walkie-talkies and they had all but ours. So our plan did not work. I mean, we woke them up in the middle of the night.
But then I feel like, ended up like sort of pranking us, because they were like, we were waiting for them to like get upset at us or like something. And I remember
Right.
like not actually fighting, but like
They
having a fake
gaslit us.
fight.
They were
with-
like, we don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what they kept saying.
Yeah, and I remember straight up looking at my other leader. This probably wasn't a great thing to do, but I was like, you're lying to me right now. I know it. I know that you know what I'm talking about, and you're just not telling me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they told us they didn't know, and then eventually it came out. I don't remember how, but our plan did not work.
But then we ended up like talking through them all the time, and we would like, I think we played sardines or hide and seek, and we used the walkie-talkies during the game or something.
Oh, yeah.
It was so fun.
It was so fun. Oh, also one more thing about the first year I went. So the girls stayed in like this gym area. That's where our air mattresses were set up, and the boys were in this back room that was, I don't know, like a kitchen, kind of like a staff hangout or something.
Okay.
And there were maybe 3 boys on that trip, and that room got so stinky. Like you
This
would
is
walk
the year
in.
you went before me.
Yes, this is the
Okay.
year before. This is my first time in Florida. That room got so stinky, but it leads into our trip. And like you would walk in and it was like you hit a wall.
Ew.
And I remember even like we had to start telling them to leave their stuff outside at the end of the day. Like there was no reason it should have been this stinky. And when we left, it was still stinky. Like we tried to like spray Febreze and it was awful. And the next year they told us we had to stay out of that room and they gave us all these extra warnings. And I was like, that was because of us. Like there were way more
Yikes.
rules when you guys were planning it than when I was planning it. And it was because of that.
Way to screw it up.
Yeah. But
I
it
think
was so gross.
aside from that, in our walkie-talkie pranks, and like, I guess they didn't have enough rules that kept us from doing things because we still had fun. Or like
It was
funny
fun because
things
the
that happened.
building we would stay in was like an extra building to the church. It was like their rec building. So we had a
Yeah.
gym. We had access to a gym at all hours of the day.
Which was so fun.
And so that was very fun. And
I
actually,
think-
the second year it was better because the girls slept in the gym the first year.
Oh,
And so after a certain point, you'd have to stop playing in there.
right.
But the next year, we all had different rooms.
Yeah, which was so fun for us because we would just goof off. But the other thing too is I was remembering on the way down on this trip, I remember we decided as leaders that it would be fun to give out our shirts. So normally when you would go on a trip, everyone
my.
would get a mission trip shirt, and you would just pass them out either before you went and tell everybody to pack it with their stuff, or the leaders would bring it and give it to you on the trip, and normally you would wear all of them on a day together. But as leaders, we decided on our trip, we weren't going to give them to everybody, and we would give one out every stop we made on the way down to Florida. And we would like randomly pick someone. I don't remember how we picked, but
I don't remember either.
we would randomly choose somebody to give a shirt to, and we took a picture every single stop and every single time somebody got a shirt until we got down to Florida. And I think it worked out almost perfectly, the amount of people to the amount of stops we had.
Yeah,
Except
so
at
every
the
time
end.
there was one more person in the picture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so funny.
that was funny. Yeah, that was it was a long drive.
It was a long drive.
But, what I was going to say is I remember that somehow we had gotten like a really nice van for that trip too. Like it was one of the new ones with the really high ceilings that I could stand up in this van.
Me
It
too.
was so nice. So that was a good trip.
And the only other thing I think I have about that trip is that I remember going to I don't know what it was called. I don't know the place really, but we saw alligators.
We went to like a nature reserve or
Yeah.
something where there were alligators.
But that was honestly the most fun. Sometimes I'm just a little weird, actually a lot of the time. But
Okay.
I remember being on that trip and like seeing gators and all this stuff and being so excited and like freaking out. And then there were like all these different birds, and also I saw a pileated woodpecker, which is exciting because you don't see those very often. None of my trip members thought it was cool, but I thought it was the best thing ever. And then
I thought
found
the
this-
alligators were cool.
Yeah, but like I was more excited about the bird.
Remember when? Okay, but there were 2 alligators that we saw, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
bumped snouts and they kissed,
Yeah, that was cute.
and that was really cute.
But my favorite part of that was when we found that gecko.
Oh yes.
I mean, there were geckos everywhere in Florida. Don't get me wrong; it wasn't anything special. But I was so excited, and I was like, "Catch it! Somebody catch it! Catch it!" Because I was too scared. And I remember our friend, wasn't Jeff? Did he catch it?
Jeff caught it. Yeah.
Yeah. Our friend Jeff, who was on the trip, caught it for us. And then I remember like we named this gecko, and like I got to hold it. I was so
This is the
excited.
happiest. Okay, so there's a picture out there that I can put on the Instagram, but Abby is the happiest she's ever been
Which is hilarious.
in this
because I
photo
don't
holding
know
this
why.
gecko.
I literally don't know
You
why.
were so excited.
Yeah. It was a moment for me. Anyways, I guess finishing up talking about mission trips. What was like your biggest takeaway from mission trips in general? Like what was the best part of mission trips to you?
I think the best part, well, one, just being able to serve others, but also like having fun at the same time, like
Yeah.
learning that like this is a way of life, like glorifying God, serving others is a way of life, and there is so much fun that can be had in that. It doesn't have to be like this is what we're doing. It's very mundane. Like no, we're joking around the whole time, but also just seeing how other people serve and do things differently and learning about other people. I think that was probably the biggest takeaway I would get from these. It's just the interactions with people from all over,
Yeah.
like the people in the communities, and seeing how grateful they were just for you to be there or just to have what they did have. Put a lot of perspective into like, oh, these are all the
Right.
things I have, and this is just a week for me, but this is like their home. This is their lifetime.
I
What
think
about
my
you?
takeaways were pretty similar. I think when you just think about a mission trip as a whole, I think that has to be your takeaway is just the service and the fun that you can have and everything that you said. Individually, I think I had very different takeaways for each one
Right.
of them. But I think there was one in particular where I just got to sit down and like talk with one of the people that was a leader with one of the ministries that we were working with. And I think it's just so fun to learn from people that are going through such or living in such different places, going through different experiences. And you said this, but I just think it's wild that we pass by so many people every day, whether it's in the town
Right.
you live in, whether it's you're on a mission trip and it's the people you are buying the gas station or in the grocery store or the people that you're serving with. It's just wild to me to think about the amount of different things that people go through. And you might look at someone and think, oh, they look normal or they look cute or whatever goes through your mind when you have that immediate like visual reaction to seeing someone. But people's stories are incredible and they're
Right.
crazy and a lot deeper than I think we can even imagine. And that's always fun to learn when you're on mission trips. I feel like we would always just get deeper stories from people that we were traveling with or the people
Right.
that we would meet there.
Yeah, you would just learn so much about them, and knowing about people's lives it puts a lot of things into perspective, and just yeah, people seem more real.
All right, which one was your favorite?
Oh, my favorite. Golly.
I don't know. If
It
I can pick
was
either.
probably, I would have to say maybe my New York trip, just because it was that first one and
Oh,
it was
really? Okay.
so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine
Also,
is
I have one more little story from that. I'm so sorry.
that's fine.
But there was one time on that New York trip where our three leaders were like our little parents for that trip. And they had to go to the store and buy something. And they said, oh, just don't burn the place down. And we're like, oh, yeah, for sure. We're not, yeah, whatever. And about 10 minutes after they left, the fire alarm starts going off
Stop.
because we were heating up the oven for some frozen pizzas, and the Airbnb or whoever owns this place had left something in the oven and it started burning and almost caught on
Oh.
fire. So we almost did exactly what they told us not to do. Anyways,
That's
what was
so
your
fun.
favorite?
Oh, my favorite? I don't know. I think it's definitely a tie between Texas and Florida. Those two that I went on. I think it's always, in my mind, the most recent is always the most fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the one that happened the latest, so Florida. But Texas had just as many like crazy fun things and goofy stuff. So I don't know. One of those two.
Yeah.
Anyways. Well, thanks for listening to us talk all about mission trips. And I've had fun just reminiscing and sharing stories.
Oh, yeah, me too. Thinking about things I forgot even happened.
I know, me too. So, I was going to say join us next week and say what our topic for next week was, but I guess you'll have to tune in next week to figure out what our topic is.
Yes. Also, before we go, please rate, review, and subscribe
Yeah,
our podcast on whatever you're listening to it on.
right.
Yeah. So please do that.
Awesome. Well, we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye.